Atlantis, a name that stirs the imagination like few others. A mighty empire lost beneath the sea in a single day and night. A civilization of impossible beauty and power, now buried under waves or in dusty scrolls. Was it ever real, or just a parable spun by a philosopher? The story of Atlantis has sparked debates for over 2 millennia. From ancient scrolls to sci-fi adventures, it's been retold, reimagined, and re-examined endlessly. But what if there's more to the legend than fiction? What if Plato's tale was rooted in truth, or something close to it? In this episode, we'll dive into the origin of the Atlantis myth, explore scientific theories, examine historical civilizations that may have inspired it, and reveal surprising archaeological finds. Along the way, we'll ask what makes a myth endure, and why do we still chase Atlantis? You might just walk away questioning what else lies beneath our stories. The birth of a legend, Plato and the origins of Atlantis. Our earliest and truly only primary source for the story of Atlantis is the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. He introduced it around 360 BCE in 2 dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. In these philosophical texts, Atlantis isn't just mentioned in passing. It's the centerpiece of a grand story about morality, hubris, and the fall of civilizations. According to Plato, Atlantis was a mighty island empire that existed some 9,000 years before his time. It was located beyond the Pillars of Heracles, which today we know as the Strait of Gibraltar, the gateway from the Mediterranean into the Atlantic Ocean. Atlantis, he wrote, was immense, supposedly larger than Libya and Asia combined. It had fertile fields, lush forests, an abundance of precious metals, and a powerful navy that ruled over many other lands. Atlantis was founded, Plato claimed, by the god Poseidon himself, who fell in love with a mortal woman and built her a palace surrounded by concentric rings of land and sea. This utopia was governed with fairness and wisdom, for a while. But over generations, the Atlanteans grew greedy, arrogant, and power-hungry. They abandoned virtue and gave in to luxury and conquest. According to the myth, this moral decay angered the gods. As punishment, they destroyed Atlantis with cataclysmic floods and earthquakes in a single day and night. The island vanished beneath the sea. Dramatic? Absolutely. But here's the thing. Plato wasn't writing a fantasy novel. He was a philosopher, and philosophers don't write wild tales without purpose. Many scholars believe Plato intended the Atlantis story as a political allegory. He wanted to contrast the ideal city of Athens, a symbol of reason and order, with the decadent, tyrannical empire of Atlantis. It was, in this view, a warning about what happens when a society prioritizes wealth and dominance over virtue and balance. This interpretation lines up with Plato's political philosophy in works like The Republic. But there's a twist. Plato repeatedly claims the Atlantis story isn't his invention. He says it was passed down from the Egyptian priests of Sais to the famous Athenian lawmaker Solon around 600 BCE, then to Solon's descendants, and finally to Plato's own relative Critias. That chain of transmission gives the story a strange sense of authenticity, even if historians can't find a single Egyptian text that supports it. And that brings us to one of the most mysterious elements. The Critias dialogue is unfinished. It stops mid-sentence. Scholars aren't sure why. Did Plato die before finishing it? Was it always intended to be incomplete, to make a point about the unknowable past? Or did he simply abandon the tale because it had grown too large, or because he worried people would take it too literally? Here's where things get even more intriguing. After Plato, few talked about Atlantis for almost 2,000 years. It seemed like a forgotten fable tucked into a dusty scroll. But during the European Renaissance and the Age of Discovery, interest in Atlantis roared back to life. As explorers stumbled upon the Americas and exotic cultures unknown to Europe, people began to wonder, could these new lands be part of Atlantis? Were the Aztecs, Incas, or native Caribbean peoples descendants of this fabled superpower? Renaissance thinkers latched onto Plato's account as if it were a real map, sparking centuries of speculation and expeditions. One of the most influential figures in this resurgence was Ignatius Donnelly, an American congressman and amateur historian. In 1882, he published Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, claiming that Atlantis was the mother civilization of all ancient cultures. He argued that pyramids, writing systems, and religion had all spread from Atlantis after its destruction. Though widely discredited by modern archaeologists, Donnelly's book became wildly popular, igniting a firestorm of public interest in the Atlantis myth. The 19th and 20th centuries turned Atlantis into something else entirely, a playground for fantasy, occultism, racial theories, and science fiction. The Nazis believed Atlantis was the home of the Aryan race. Spiritual movements like Theosophy imagined it as a lost spiritual realm. And of course, Hollywood turned it into everything from underwater kingdoms to alien bases. But back to Plato. What's so fascinating is how little information he actually gives us, and yet how persistent the story has been. Two short dialogues, written over 2,300 years ago, sparked centuries of adventure, speculation, and obsession. And even if we accept that Plato invented the tale, it raises a deeper question. Why did it resonate so much? Maybe it's because Atlantis isn't just about a city. It's about the fall of greatness. It's about the anxiety that even the most advanced civilization can collapse overnight. Plato's words captured something universal, something timeless, a fear and fascination that echoes to this day. So, was it real? Maybe not in the way we define real, but as a myth? As a story with the power to shape generations? For that, yes, Atlanta was, and still is, incredibly real. Hunting Atlantis. Real places that might have inspired it. So where could Atlantis really have been, if anywhere? Let's start with Santorini, or ancient Thera. Around 1600 BCE, this Greek island exploded in one of the largest volcanic eruptions in recorded history. It destroyed much of the island, sent tsunamis crashing into Crete, and likely contributed to the decline of the powerful Minoan civilization. Here's the connection. The Minoans were advanced. They had paved streets, multi-story buildings with plumbing, and vibrant art. Sound familiar? They fit many of Plato's descriptions of Atlantis. Archaeologist Spiridon Marinatos proposed in the 20th century that the Atlantis myth may be a distant echo of Thera's destruction. Marinatos, Antiquity, 1939. Though Santorini isn't beyond the Pillars of Heracles, some believe Plato may have gotten the geography, or translation, wrong. Then there's Helike, a Greek city that did sink into the sea around 373 BCE, just years before Plato wrote his dialogues. An earthquake, followed by a tsunami, submerged the entire city in the Gulf of Corinth. Ancient texts describe people watching the city vanish overnight, eerily close to the Atlantis tale. Archaeological digs in the 1990s even uncovered parts of Helike's ruins underwater. Now let's look farther west, Spain. Satellite imaging in 2004 revealed a strange circular structure in the marshlands of Doñana National Park near Cadiz. Some theorists pointed to the layout, concentric rings of water and land, as matching Plato's description of Atlantis' capital. A team led by Professor Richard Freund proposed this site as a possible Atlantis candidate, though mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical. National Geographic, 2011. Even Ireland and the Caribbean have been floated as possible sites. In the Americas, 19th century explorer Augustus Laplongeon suggested the ancient Mayan city of Uxmal was a remnant of Atlantis. He was mostly dismissed, but fringe theories persisted, especially when striking similarities in pyramid structures were noticed across continents. So what's the pattern? Many of these theories emerged not from evidence, but from desire. People want Atlantis to be real. They search coastlines, pore over satellite images, and dive into ruins. The fact that civilizations did rise and fall cataclysmically, like the Minoans, only fuels the fire. There's no smoking gun, but the fact that so many lost cities have turned up, from Troy to Angkor, gives Atlantis hunters hope. Maybe it's just a matter of time. Science, sunken cities, and strange clues. Let's switch gears. What does science say? Geologists are clear. Entire islands don't just vanish overnight, but parts of land can disappear via earthquakes, volcanoes, and rising seas. Consider this. Sea levels have risen more than 120 meters since the last ice age, around 20,000 years ago. That's enough to submerge vast coastal areas. Source: NOAA Sea Level Rise History. Underwater archaeology is catching up. Sites like Dwarka, off the coast of India, show submerged ruins that date back over 9,000 years. Marine archaeologist S.R. Rao led the discoveries in the 1980s and claimed these may be among the oldest sunken cities on Earth. Although debated, evidence proves that ancient cities have ended up beneath the sea, Then there's Yonaguni, a formation off the coast of Japan that looks like step-like stone terraces. Discovered in 1986 by a diver, the site sparked fierce debate. Was it carved by nature or humans? Geologist Masaki Kimura argued it was an ancient sunken city over 10,000 years old. Others say it's natural erosion, but no one can quite explain the odd symmetry. And what about magnetic anomalies? In 1978, a research ship from Columbia University discovered strange magnetic fields near the Bahamas. Some tied it to the fabled Bimini Road, an underwater rock formation that resembles a man-made causeway. Is it natural or ancient engineering? Still, no scientific expedition has ever found structures definitively linked to Atlantis. Most finds are either too recent or not advanced enough to match Plato's descriptions. Yet each discovery keeps the myth alive. Interestingly, genetic studies have also revealed that many coastal peoples, from North Africa to Europe, share unexpected ancient DNA links. Could this point to a shared cultural ancestor? Perhaps a forgotten maritime society that inspired Plato's tale? While speculative, these theories show the power of blending science and myth. The more we explore the oceans, only 20% of the seafloor has been mapped, the more likely we are to uncover surprises. Atlantis may not be real, but sunken civilizations? Absolutely. Atlantis in pop culture and what it really means. Atlantis is more than an ancient puzzle. It's a cultural mirror. Throughout history, every era has reinterpreted Atlantis to reflect its fears and dreams. In the Renaissance, explorers imagined it was the New World. In the 19th century, theosophists like Madame Blavatsky claimed it was the cradle of psychic powers and lost wisdom. By the 20th century, Atlantis was everywhere, from Pulp Fiction to Disney films to conspiracy theories about aliens. Even Nazi Germany co-opted Atlantis. Heinrich Himmler believed it was the ancestral homeland of the Aryan race and funded expeditions to prove it. Pseudo-histories like those of Ignatius Donnelly, whose 1882 book Atlantis, the Antediluvian World sold wildly, fueled nationalistic and racial myths. Source: Hale, The Atlantis Myth, 2002. But Atlantis is also a symbol of warning. Plato's core message was clear. Power without virtue leads to collapse. Atlantis fell not because of a natural disaster, but because it grew arrogant. Modern cities have taken note. Climate change, rising cities, and urban vulnerability are Atlantis-like concerns today. New York, Jakarta, Venice, could they be the next Atlantis? And there's something timeless about a lost utopia. Humans long for golden ages. Atlantis represents that unreachable ideal, a perfect society now gone. It's Eden, it's Camelot, it's the Tower of Babel. Whether it's real or not, Atlantis speaks to something deep in us, a desire to know what came before, and a fear it could happen again. Conclusion: whether Atlantis was a real city swallowed by the sea or a parable created by Plato, its impact is undeniable. It's more than a mystery, it's a mirror. Atlantis reflects our fascination with lost knowledge, sudden catastrophes, and the arrogance of power. Through science, archaeology, and myth, we may never find a single location that proves the legend, but we uncover something just as meaningful: the truth about ourselves. From Minoan palaces to Caribbean pyramids, from Plato's philosophy to sonar scans of the sea floor, Atlantis lives on, not as a single place, but as a timeless question. What have we lost? What might we still find? And if Atlantis was real, what else have we forgotten? So perhaps in chasing Atlantis, we're not just looking for a sunken city. We're searching for a deeper story of who we are and who we once were. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.